our next state, the great state of Georgia. Suffice it to say that the state of Georgia looks very, very similar to the state of North Carolina. And again, our goal is to take the Georgia State House and probably the Georgia State Senate. Now, when I looked at Georgia, one of the things that really shocked me was that the really brilliant people who identify flippable districts did not look at Georgia 12, which is in Augusta. Georgia 12, the registered Black voter population is 38%. And there are state House seats and state Senate seats that are under that congressional district. Next door to Georgia 12 is Congressional District 8. And Congressional District 8 is 30% Black. Next door to that is Sanford Bishop's District, Congressional District 2. So we have a lot of opportunity in Georgia. So I want to introduce my next speaker. Her name is Kyle Tromley. Now, Kyle, you look 12. You don't look like you've been working on, you go all the way back to Hillary Clinton's campaign. You look really young. So campaign work obviously agrees with you. So she's worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign, Pete Buttigieg's, Steve Bullock, and Tim Ryan. She was in Ohio and ran the program that enshrined abortion rights in the state constitution. Thank you very much for that. And in 2024, she went to Atlanta and she was political director for Senator John Ossoff. And now she has been the coordinated director since 2025. And it looks as though Georgia is really embracing the notion of power packed campaigns. So I love that. So, Kyle, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm glad that the campaign world seems to be treating me well. Quite silly for having me go right after both senators, but so grateful to be here. Senator Ossoff apologizes that he couldn't be here, so you all have me instead. But he had plans with his two daughters, Eva and Lila. But so grateful to be here to talk about Georgia. I am born and raised from the Midwest. I've done most of my career in the Midwest, but fortunately got brought down to Georgia by Senator Ossoff. He called me and he was like, look, if you all in Ohio in 2023 can enshrine abortion rights, we have so much work we can do in Georgia. So a lot of the work that we have been doing leading up to this point is understanding how much of an opportunity there is in Georgia. I like to joke with folks as a girl from Indiana that Georgia's been a battleground state since 2018, and all they have to show for it is two Democratic U.S. senators. And so that's kind of been the joke we have as we've been moving towards rebuilding our Democratic Party of Georgia and just the infrastructure of understanding that, yeah, in 2018, Stacey Abrams did all this amazing work to start building the basis of the statewide infrastructure. And then really national investors have kind of been not really sure, like one foot in, one foot out as far as embracing Georgia. And so a lot of the work that we're doing on the coordinated campaign right now, we are already at about 80 staffers. This is the largest coordinated campaign at this point in Georgia ever. This is the first time that national committees have given Georgia money as early as any other state, and it's actually the most money that they've given this early in a campaign. And as Emily's list says, early money is like yeast. So that's been super helpful for us as we've been going. But what's going to be different this year is that we in the coordinated campaign, under the guidance of Senator Ossoff and our chair, Charlie Bailey, is the senator understands that it's not enough just for us to have two yes senators. We need to be able to pool our resources and make sure that all of the awesome fundraising the senator is doing and our gubernatorial candidate, Keisha, former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, we're able to pool our resources because most of our state house candidates aren't going to be able to make $1 million day like Senator Ossoff has. So I see in the chat someone, what is the coordinated campaign? This is an entity of the Democratic Party for me and my work, but the Republicans as well do this. And it's a way I'm technically an employee of the Democratic Party of Georgia. And it is my job to not only elect Senator John Ossoff, but every Democrat on the ballot. And so this year, unlike past years, that looks like we, when we were drawing our regions for our organizing program on the ground, we focus not just on where voters are, but used lines that already exist. And so, Andrea, I know you have been talking about the power packing, and that at its core is what we are doing. And so, all of our regions that our organizers in our field program, those are all based at the center of our targeted state house races. So making sure that the organizer that is working in House District 53, which is one of the most flippable state house districts in the country, that entire district will be in one region with one regional manager, and then the whole district will have one organizer. And why this is important is because when we have our national partners like the DNC and the DSCC, that allows us to say, hey, actually, we can put some of their targets that maybe the senator doesn't need to focus on. We actually can put those in ours and let them knock the same doors as us, right? So we're consolidating our volunteers. Gone are the days where my team making thousands of phone calls to recruit volunteers and we take care of this pool of voters is gone. Folks are fired up about their local state ledge candidates. Folks are really starting to understand that that is where the power is, and particularly in places like Georgia. And so the next piece of that, though, is great. A candidate comes to knock with us. Well, that means they're not using their own vote builder to get that data. So we have built for the first time in Georgia data infrastructure to make sure that if a candidate and their team come and knock with us as the coordinated campaign, they are then the next day able to see that in their vote builder. And again, for folks at the very top of the ticket, we can use some of that data to inform decisions, but a lot of these state house races are going to come down to, okay, we ID'd these 5 people as supporters. We were able to decide, okay, these folks are maybe supporters, and then individual candidates are able to take that and go and actually talk to those folks themselves. To give you kind of a lay of the land in Georgia, I think it's 10 seats now. We flipped a seat that we had no business flipping. Now Rep. Eric Gisler in Oconee and Athens County over in eastern Georgia, 10 seats away from flipping the state house. 5 of those seats, Kamala Harris won with at least 52% of the vote. Senator Warnock was the high water mark in 2022 with those districts at the high water mark of 54 to 55%. I know Andrea mentioned our Congressman Sanford Bishop down in Congressional District 2, Rep. Gerald Green, who was a Democrat and then switched to the Republican Party. We didn't run a single person against him in 2024. And that was one of the seats that Vice President Harris won with 52% of the vote. So just things like that, an environment of making sure we have great candidates in these districts, that they are able to know that the Senator Keisha Lance Bottoms, everyone has their back, has just really been the crux of this. I also want to note for folks that maybe aren't as like involved in Georgia, that we have runoff elections similar to our friends over in Alabama. And so after the primary runoff election, Georgia Republicans decided they wanted to call a special session. One, because we had to take care of an issue with our voting systems, of a self-imposed deadline by the state house majority. But they also had announced that they were going to take the opportunity to redistrict for our districts for 2028. And shout out to a number of folks on the ground in Georgia, civil rights leaders, reverends, faith community, reproductive rights, and then our state Democratic State Caucus. They didn't even bring it to committee to have the hearing because they saw the writing on the wall, similar to how Senator Jones said in Alabama. They were like, wow, more people turned out in the Democratic primary runoff than they did in ours in the Republican. And it's the same thing where we have open primaries here. Um, and so that was just fantastic because now we know that the districts are going to stay the same for now. And we have such an opportunity with flipping these 10 state house seats. And probably about three in the state Senate. Andrea, you sound a bit more positive than me on those, but the bigger the districts, the easier it is to gerrymander. But we have about three of those in the state that we feel pretty confident that we're going to give them a run for their money. And, I don't have to tell folks on this call, competing everywhere and competing hard means that they're not able to spend money in places where we know that it's less of a margin. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else in my notes I wanted to make sure to cover for you all. Um, I don't think so. I think I just want to say I really appreciate the work that you all are doing in Georgia on the ground. You're a 501(c)(3), so I don't really get to actually coordinate with you all because legal. But such important work, and I cannot express how deeply we are on the right track in Georgia. And it's organizations like this that make sure that on both sides of this wall, we're going to get this done to be able to redistrict for fair maps in 2030.
Yes, yes. And Kyle, thank you so very much for joining us. And I was rather pleased and delighted, number one, with the work on the ground when Governor Kemp came and said, you know what, Georgia, we're not going to draw new maps for 2028. So again, I think they're beginning to realize 34% of your electorate is Black. You can't move them out of state. You're going to just move them into other districts, creating what I term opportunity districts for me. So I'm going, yes, be silly, be ridiculous. Let me take two seats and turn them into four. That works for me.
Yes, absolutely. And I will know, Andrea, on that with Governor Kemp, that I think what they also saw the Black voting power in Georgia in our primary elections, all except for Senator Ossoff and Josh McLaurin, who is our lieutenant governor candidate, every single person on our statewide constitutional offices are Black women. And that doesn't just happen by accident. And what a blessing for Senator Ossoff to get to run with such a powerful ticket. So I'm sure that with Governor Kemp, he saw that and was like, uh-oh, folks. So
But this is not going the direction that I had hopes. Oops. No, 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 not going to go there. This was not going to make it better. This could make it a lot worse. So, yes. Well, let's stay tuned and see where we end up on November 4th. How wide will my smile be? Thank you so very, very much. All right. Well, every once in a while, we